Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are celebrating the release of the new Spider-Man movie. What's it called?
No Way Home.
No Way Home. Which I haven't seen yet. You haven't seen it, so please don't fucking spoil anything.
Don't spoil it. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Don't spoil it in the comments for people. Don't spoil it for... This is like one of the most anticipated movies for a lot of people. Like, let's give them through the holiday to see it. People want to see with their family.
Or, just yell it in the streets. What happens? Either one.
Yeah. You know what? You can say you loved it or it wasn't for you.
Oh, no, I'm saying just run through the streets.
Just run through the streets.
What happens. If you're going to be that guy fully.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going to do it.
Have him buy a megaphone.
Don't do it online where nobody can,
Yeah, everybody should know who it is, who sang it, and you should be able to get punched by everybody. Okay? So, anyway, we're doing the Return of the Sinister Six story arc, which is the 1990s Sinister Six story arc.
It's like, Matt, we got to do Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, John knows how much I don't care about Spider-Man. I don't say I hate him because there's definitely good arcs that I've read that I'm like, oh, that was good. Yeah. He's just not one of my favorite characters.
Matt is one of for Spider-Man, Matt is one of those superhero fans that, he's one of those superhero fans that he doesn't normally like. Where it's like, hey, you like the Avengers? Oh, yeah, man, I love the MCU. Oh, okay. What's your favorite comic? I don't know. I read comics.
That's not how I am.
You like the Spider-Man movies?
You're allowed to like. Oh yes. I prefer.
Mean.
I got you. Yes, I am the MCU fan over the comics for Spider-Man, just because. And I grew up with the Tobey Maguire movies. Yeah. I think you did too, and so those were great. I even didn't mind whatever the third one was like, blah, but it was like it was fine. Because you didn't have anything to compare it to other than the first two. So it was like, well, yeah, X-Men 3 sucked too. So I guess the third one's
they're just we're not gonna get a good ending.
Yeah. So, I was like, hey, at least there's a Spider-Man movie, X-Men movies, cool. And then, the MCU happened and it was like that raised the fucking bar. So now you go back and watch those other ones, you're like, all right. I mean, I guess
except Spider-Man 2. Like it still is pretty.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, okay. I don't like it once again. The Spider-Man movies so far, I've been like, yeah, they're fun, and I enjoy watching them, but it's not my favorite character, but I have fun watching it. When in the trailer, when
for the
fucking Alfred Molina comes out as Doc Ock, I was like, oh my God. Like, I did not know that was what this was going to be about or anything, so when he shows up, I was like, holy shit, like, I have to see this. So that was like, good on you, Marvel, for doing that. You even got this fucking disillusioned asshole to be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I gotta go see Spider-Man opening weekend or whatever. So, not opening night because I'm not 12 anymore, but old man.
We gotta work.
We can go see it in the morning when I get up at 4, get some coffee, do my day stuff, and then at 10 a.m. we can go see a movie on Sunday. All right, that's what we do. I go to bed after I eat brunch. At 4 p.m. All right, that's when I go to bed. Anyway, but yeah, we were psyched about that movie, so we figured we'd do the Sinister Six story arc from the 90s, which is actually from the cover says July, but it's probably like 3 months before that. But in 1990, and it's by David Michelini and Eric Larson on art, who you might know. If you're an Image fan from like Savage Dragon, that's his that is one of the longest ongoing indie titles of all time. Okay, yeah. That and Spawn are like the two biggest. They're fighting it out.
Who's gonna keep going?
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's they literally have a fight about it because, and the other thing is, Eric Larson has written every issue.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
he there was even back in the beginning of Image, they were like, hey, yeah, like have some guest writers come in, and someone came in to write an issue of Savage Dragon. They released it, and then he wrote every other issue after that too, and then he was mad that he had let someone write that issue, so he went back and rewrote that issue and re-released it as like, here's my written issue of number 9.
Oh wow!
And then so now you can have the full run of him writing it, and yeah, there's this one that was originally released that is some other guy or whatever, and I was like, I don't know if it. I mean, it had to be one of those British writers because that's what they did with Spawn. They got Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman to write
Savage
Spawn.
Dragon, Neil Gaiman.
I wouldn't. I mean, that's what they were doing. They're like, Grant Morrison writes. Like, you know, it's like, all right, cool. You know, that's cool. So,
why am I a dragon?
Yeah,
it's a deep question. I must know.
It turns out he's not a dragon. He's an alien from another world, and dragon is just their word for aliens.
Yeah.
Or, you know, yeah, it would just be something weird like that. It's a metaphysical, you know, shattering existence for Savage Dragon, this issue, and then after that he just goes back to being a Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happens in the issue, but for sure that was just interesting. But his art style is very cool. It's definitely the Image guys. It definitely fits Spider-Man for this era because Todd McFarlane had already done the run for like I think 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's probably 24 issues he did, and then they went to go make. Well, actually, I think. Did they do Image? I don't remember when they started Image and left completely, but I think this was either concurrently or during that. Yeah. I don't know because it's hard. The problem is he wrote it for a while because he did he drew it for a while. Eric Larson did the Carnage run.
Oh, okay.
And so that goes into the 60s, 360 or whatever. This is 334.
Okay, yeah. So for a while.
So 2 or 3 more years. So. I think Image was still going on then, but I thought all the Image guys. I don't know. Comic book history is weird and sometimes confusing. So, but whenever the Image guys split off, they completely stopped writing for Marvel and DC for a couple of years to be like, this is our thing, and then they sold so much that Marvel and DC were like, please come write something for me. Yeah, and then they did like Heroes Reborn with. Remember that Captain America that Rob Liefeld drew with the big tits
with the Captain America
the tiny head, the giant chest,
so huge.
Yes, and amazing. I love that. I want the original art for that. but yeah. So anyway, back to Spider-Man. So this is technically the second time we've seen the Sinister Six, which is just all his major villains getting together and like forming a common goal or whatever. So
to get Spider-Man.
The first one is actually included in the trade paperback that we read. It is by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko.
Yeah.
And John, would you like to fill us on the story arc of that?
Yeah, just an overall, it's the Sinister Six, and they're like, well...
wait, the Sinister Six?
Sinister Six, pardon my slurred speech.
I'm going to make fun of
you. The Sinister Six. That's what they're calling themselves, and it is Dr. Octopus, Mysterio, Electro, Kraven the Hunter, Sandman, and the Vulture.
Yes. And we should say also, just this is from the 60s.
Yes, this is from the 60s.
And the one that we're reading is from the 90s. And the one that we're reading is after, if you go back to our Kraven's Last Hunt story arc, that is, this is after that. So
yeah.
Just so you know.
And so all of them are like, Dr. Octopus gets them all together, and he's like, hey, I got an idea. You know, we've all fought Spider-Man before, and we've all lost. But what if we all fight him together this time? And by together, I mean everybody take a card from this pile, and
we all fight. Straws from a hat. Like, which one's going to fight him first?
They fight him in different locations, one at a time. Yeah. And they're like, get it, because he'll fight each one of us, and he'll get weaker and slower and tired. So by the time he gets to whatever the last one is, then he'll be so weak, and we'll have defeated him, and it'll be quote unquote together.
Right.
But by that point, so. Basically, Spider-Man goes, having to fight them one-on-one, and then once he figures out, I think Electro, the first one, tells him, hey, we have these cards, and we will.
Of course, he reveals the whole plan.
Yeah, the plan, and Spider-Man's like, oh, cool, so I just got to get the card and go to the next person, cool. And so, he beats Electro, but then he just, tussles with Kraven. He's like, I got the card, see ya, peace. And then he goes to each one, and then finally, Doc Ock is the last one. Doc Ock did have a little bit ulterior motives still. He
always does.
He always does. He's definitely one of the smarter ones. He is a scientist. And Sandman is kind of on that fence of I want to get back at Spider-Man, but I'm not really a bad guy. He's like, whatever, just beat him up. So anyway, so he gets to Doc Ock, and it takes a little bit of art to tussle, but he beats him, and then they all go to jail. And it's like,
and
well,
that is a 40-page one issue.
Yes.
So this is the one we're going to read today is 6 issues long, and they have time to breathe.
Yes.
Now, like we said, it was by Stanley and Steve Ditko. Oh, good God! It's quite a read. We'll say that
they lay the groundwork. It's Spider-Man. All the characters they created, they're all fantastic. It's a little wordy for a 40-page.
A little wordy.
You can see most of the art.
Most of the art you can.
In this one, you can
most
see the art in this one. You know what I noticed about the older comics is that they will do that like they're talking in the words and whatnot, and then there's splash pages where they're like they have one or two like thoughts, and then that's where you see a really nice art.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And then it goes back to covering up their art.
6-panel grid.
Yeah, and then at the end of the comic, you'll get like little almost like it's like
a PS or PCA or whatever.
Yeah, a PSA on the characters, and it's like a really nice color like poster of the character like in a fighting stance, and then
Spider-Man doesn't do drugs.
Yeah, a little blurb about him or whatever.
Crime doesn't pay.
That's where you really get to see the character. It's like that one. It's the thing that they make for you to buy the poster of it. And then when you go and read the story, you're like, I mean, I guess they're fighting back there, kind of.
Yeah. Also, you got to remember that was written for 6-year-old kids or whatever back then, too.
That's true.
So, by this time in the 90s, with the one we're going to read, this is for, I wouldn't say adults, but it's probably for teenagers.
Teens, yeah.
It's for teenagers.
I remember reading several. I thought this was the run I read because I remember reading a Sinister Six story, but this was not the one. I didn't remember it as we were reading. I was like, oh no, this is completely different. Yeah. But
well, the thing about this is, I feel like this is the perfect sweet spot for comics.
Yeah.
Like I can read it and enjoy it. A teenager can read it and go like, yeah, this is what I'm into. And then a little kid can read it and be like, this is what cool kids, older cool kids.
That's
like.
true.
So I'm into it too, even if I might not get everything or whatever. I'm like, because I know cool older kids read it or whatever. I'm into
too.
it. Yeah, exactly. So like, I feel like this hits all ages fairly well. So this was like, I don't know. People make fun of the '90s, and this is maybe controversial to people who are older than me or younger than me. But because I grew up in the '90s, guess what? The '90s is my favorite. You're
definitely learning that through our reading of these.
And
things.
I didn't know that because I never read the '90s stuff after I was like 6 or whatever because. I just fell out of comics, and then when I got back into it, it was like already the mid-2000s, and I was like, everybody was making fun of the 90s. So it was like, yeah, fuck Rob Liefeld or whatever, like fuck all those. And now when I see like a cover that I'm like, ooh, that's a cool cover. I'm like, who did that? It's like, oh, Rob Liefeld did that. Okay, cool. So like, it just seems like now that I'm older, I'm just automatically drawn to this style, and this comic is no exception. I have never read an Eric Larson comic that I know of. But when I opened this book, I was like, "Ooh, I like everything about all of the art in this book." Like, and it just has the sensibilities that I grew up looking at and reading, or just noticing the aesthetic, you know, of it. So, and I feel the same way about Spawn, which I'm rereading right now. Like, I've never read it before, but I'm going through like every issue of that too. I mean, Spawn was made fun of a lot.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. So I don't know. Like, I don't understand why it gets so much hate. Maybe, I mean, I'm only at the very beginning and the very end of it because I'm reading it currently too. So the middle might suck or something, but like, yeah, like I think that these 90s guys had something going on for them. The art specifically and the writing. Like, I feel like David Michelini, or Michelini, I don't know how you say his name, but he wrote the run right before Daredevil, in Daredevil, right before Frank Miller took over. So he laid a lot of the groundwork, and then Frank Miller took over. He did a lot of the issues where Frank Miller was drawing it, and then Frank Miller took over the writing too. So he laid a lot of the groundwork for that amazing run.
Yeah.
And I read that whole thing. That's from the 70s, and it was fucking solid. And then, like, I jumped to here, and he's in the 90s, 20 years later, still writing fucking solid comics. So I found out I'm a David Michelini fan too. You know, like I've read. I think he did Swamp Things too, and like I think I've read a lot of his stuff, and every time I read it, I'm like, solid work. Like, I think he totally holds up over like 30 years of a career. So
that's huge.
Yeah, and that's pretty hard to do. I think, you know, to be consistently on for like comics is either you get crazy and go off the rails or something, or like you just lose with the times and you don't stay relevant or whatever. Your writing style gets old or something. But he like was able to. Maybe it was like he's so ahead of his time that he just caught up to it eventually where he should have been, and then it passed him by like in the 2000s or something. But I don't know. But anyway, let's get into this. Spider-Man, Sinister Six, or it's the Amazing Spider-Man. This takes place in the regular title, because at this time, I believe there was also a Spider-Man with no what do they call it? Adjective. Okay. There was no adjective. It was the adjectiveless Spider-Man, just called Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Right? Yeah. And that was written and drawn by, at least initially, was Todd McFarlane, who originally drew this run at the beginning, starting in issue 300. So we are now at issue 334. It is the Return of Sinister Six Part 1, and we begin with Electro.
Right away.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, because I didn't pay attention enough to the old one, is this the same order that they introduce the Sinister Six and the other one, like the way that they fight him? Because this starts with Electro, that starts with Electro. The villain, keep track. If you
I will. Yeah, I don't remember now, but as we're
feel like that's something David Michelini would have done in order to, because it ends with Doc Ock. It begins with Electro. I feel like they did it in order, just like the old one. And maybe even the same story beats, like there's a double cross or there's a this or that, So, yeah, I just feel like David Michelini is a very good writer and probably picked up on that and did it in a clever way that wasn't just feeling repetitive or whatever. So, but either way, we start off with Electro. He is. This is interesting. I don't know much about Electro, but he's like, he fucking loves, like, he almost orgasmically loves current. He even says like, I love current. like just and so he's like, he can fly over, like, I guess only over telephone lines, or like not telephone. I'm sorry, electrical lines, because he telephone poles is what I was thinking. But he can, like, because he can take the electricity from it and it like keeps him in air,
like levitated kind of. Yeah, that's what stuff I've seen with him before.
Yeah, so Spider-Man sees he's breaking into someplace. I don't know, what is this place?
It's like a power plant or something.
Yeah, whatever. He's gonna steal all the power.
Raw current.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's like. I love current. And then he's like, all right, bro, calm down. But then, as he's in the middle of this heist, Doc Ock comes in while he's fighting Spider-Man and is like, "Oh, Spider-Man, get out of here!" And then he basically just recruits Electro, because he's like, "Hey, Electro, I can get you out of here. We'll get rid of Spider-Man. I have something greater in mind for you, or whatever." And he's like, "Okay," because he was about to get beat up by Spider-Man. So he leaves with Doc Ock in a ship. It's interesting.
Yeah,
he's got like his own space, or not spaceship, but like aircraft.
It made me think of the Fantastic Four car.
It does look like that. Yeah, it's or like the Beetle, or no, the Owl ship in Watchmen.
We'll call it the Octocar for
this. Yes, I like.
Because they always give him
the
Octocraft. Yes.
Thank you.
Coined.
Yeah, TM. We're trademarking that. But yeah, so and then we cut to Peter Parker, who's always bouncing between. I like this. He's got, like, I really did feel the struggle he's got of balancing everything, and especially in this now, he is married to MJ, and his marriage seems very off balance to me, at least. With how much attention he can give to Mary Jane, the kind of conversations they can have, because he's always constantly either got to run to his job and or school projects that he's got going, or Spider-Man shit. So he's always like, hold that thought, I'll be right back, or like, he never. He's always being interrupted, or their time is always being interrupted by other shit. Yeah. And I was like, I bet Mary Jane would, like, in the real world, be like, fuck you after like a week of that. So she's apparently very, very nice, or whatever, or like
she puts up with a lot of
thoughtful, because she knows he's Spider-Man in this already. Like,
that's true.
She's aware of his identity. So maybe that might be it. Maybe because she knows his identity, it's taking longer than if it was just like, why is this guy ditching?
Why is he always gone? Yeah. She's like, okay, well, he's saving people.
Exactly.
I guess.
Well, it's kind of like in I'm rewatching Smallville right now, and the first seasons, like the first couple of seasons, are always like, because none of his friends know, and so they're like, "Why are you always leaving, Clark?" Like, everything's always about him trying to keep it hidden from them, and so he's like, I gotta go take a shit, and then like, like he's gotta go save people, and then comes back and what happened or whatever, you know, and then like always misses dates whenever he makes a date finally with the girl he likes or whatever, and she's like, you're so never here, Clark, and he's like, I try, but I can't, like, because I'm saving people, but he can't say that. Like, there's always, he can't say it. So it's nice that he doesn't have to explain that to her anymore. But, like, you could definitely tell there's, like, a wedge in, like, what's going on with them. So, and then we see that he is working in some laboratory. And is this part of his school, or is he actually at, it's his job? Right?
This is school. It's Empire. It gets its job.
It's at a school, but it is his job. He is an assistant. It's a research assistant at Empire State University.
That's why.
So he's already graduated.
He just happened. The job is at a school.
Yes, right. Which is not confusing at all. So,
no. Well, yeah, just because you associate Peter Parker
with school school So, but what's I mean, they're trying to launch a satellite that will. And this is ridiculous. This is like a 90s storyline if I've ever heard one. They have found these things called ley lines, which have you ever heard of ley lines before?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a very mystical, we'll say a hippie thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Wiccan thing? I don't know. It's a very like earth-centric, hippie kind of mysticism, I guess you call it, where basically it's like there's energy lines that run through the earth and we can tap into them
and have unlimited kind of a source of energy.
Yeah. My do you have any, I mean, other than just knowledge of it, you don't have any, like, you never read about them or anything?
I think I was vaguely told about him. I remember my folks used to be into some be a little more hippie-ish when I was younger.
Totally.
They're not anymore. Just in case they're listening. They're not like that anymore.
Yeah.
But
yeah, okay. Well, so you knew about them just kind of from that.
Yeah.
So the only way I knew about ley lines is from Hellblazer. There's a whole story arc where he drives around in a caravan with some folks. I don't know what the word uses. Travelers. There you go. Some travelers, and he goes traveling with them around to find ley lines and like absorb their magical power or whatever, like do things with their magical power. So, but yeah, so I guess it was very weird to see this in like he's a scientist and they're studying
ley lines.
Like weird, like all right, I guess maybe this was a thing in the '90s that was like popular because that was about the time.
There was probably a little bit of
So, so they're studying ley lines and they're like, we found that if we shoot this satellite in the air, we can like map out all the ley lines and that will help us come up with a new power source that's green. It's basically solar. They're like trying to find something that's like solar energy, but on Earth.
Yeah.
So that can stop global warming. And at this time, the ozone was going away because of aerosols and all that stuff and refrigerants. So that was like the concern was we're gonna lose our ozone layer. So we need, and like also because of the things we're burning and everything that's causing global warming and all that shit and damage. Yeah. So let's come up with some power from these things in the earth and let's drain the earth. The earth is the battery. All right. I like the way they think. So they come up with it. And one thing that's cool is we get to see in this because they're referencing. And this is why I was saying I think David Michelinie like does this shit on purpose. He like in the original comic with Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, random other superheroes like from the Avengers or the Fantastic Four would show up in like one panel flying by and be like, that's Spider-Man, he's a menace or whatever, or like he's such a loner. Yeah. Like they'll just be like, should we help him as he's like falling to his death?
Like Spider-Man usually legitimately needs help.
Yeah,
and they're like, nah, he's good. He's got this.
Yeah, and so
he wouldn't want our help.
Yeah. He's a lone wolf or whatever, so like but he's actually like, help? Like and so yeah, like he does that in this where like Iron Man just shows up out of nowhere to help them like move the satellite like talker thing, whatever machinery. And so like he's like, this guy's trying to show up everybody or whatever. And so he dresses like Spider-Man to like lift it and move over. And you see he's got like a little ego issue in this, I think.
Yeah.
He's always trying to like prove some shit. which is an interesting thing I didn't know about Peter Parker during this era, is like I always thought he was like, comfortable with himself or whatever as Spider-Man, but
nope, he's definitely feeling insecure.
No, he's definitely insecure about shit. They show that in a couple ways with this, and then later on with Flash Thompson stuff or whatever too. So, but yeah, and then this is like great right here. So so we should also mention this book. The reason why we're mentioning these other side stories is it actually follows through with these side stories, which I thought was very cool.
They're not all like just like a little blurb or two.
Yeah, it ties together.
No, yeah, they all connect.
Yeah, like when I first read this, I'm like, why do we give a fuck about him and his job or whatever? And I just thought they were just throwing it in to fill space or whatever. But by the second and third and fourth issue, I was like, oh, they're like, this is actually like storylines that are going. And they might even go further than this story arc, you know what I mean? Like some of them could potentially go further than that. So, but the next story arc we cut to is Mary Jane, who gets a full story arc in this, which I was pleasantly surprised about because normally, at least in my mind, Spider-Man comics are generally always following Spider-Man.
Yeah, and it's usually like if the female character's there, it's because she's caught and she needs help.
Yeah, or she's just in the background, like at home or whatever. So this is like no, Mary Jane is there. She's loud and proud. She is fucking 90s out. Mm-hmm. Eric Larson can draw a lady. I'll say that. All right, she has the biggest hair. She has like the smokingest body. When you see her and him standing next to each other, you're like, why? Like, how did he?
He's funny.
That's how it is. Oh man, yes, that is exactly how he got Mary Jane. But dude, she's already an actress in this time, so she's already like semi-famous.
Yeah, she's on like a
soap opera that's fairly popular. Yeah. And good God, like I said, she's
full figure.
She's stacked. She's banging. All right. So, much like Tim Sale's Catwoman, I enjoy this Mary Jane more than any other Mary Jane. This is my favorite Mary Jane officially right now. I haven't seen any other ones. Like, I mean, I've seen like the 2000s ones and then like maybe earlier ones. This one, she said
something about it.
If she said, "You got me, Tiger," whatever that fucking line she says, Tiger, whatever she calls him Tiger.
Yeah. And
then she looked like this, and I was the spirit. I'd be like, hell yeah. Like, but the other ones, I'm like, it's fine. Wow. So yeah, whatever he does, basically she's just a good-looking actress. She actually looks like an actress would look back then or whatever. So yeah, I believe it. But anyway, she's at her job. She is. I like how they cut to her because I thought, oh, she's at like a dinner party, but she's in like a super fancy dress, and then like it turns out they're doing a scene. So if you're just reading it, they're arguing. They're like, and they're saying like, but the surgeon made mistakes and blah, blah, blah. Like, and it's like, what the fuck are they, like, we're just cutting in the middle. And then it was like, cut. I was like, oh, this is like a scene in a movie that she's doing. So they did like a good job of like introducing it, especially for someone who doesn't read Spider-Man all the time. And I fucking forgot that she was I always thought she was like a fledgling actress, not like actually doing anything. So probably from the Sam Raimi movies. That was just, from that.
I think if I remember, it took her a bit in all of them to get going, but then she finally hit the stride until something else happens, like a Spider-Man villain like kidnaps her or something.
Yeah, sure. In this, she is very much on her own most of the time because Spider-Man is going around doing stuff. So, but anyway, she's at her place working, and like the director insults her. He gets mad at her and says like, "God damn it, these fucking actors." And then they're like, they get kind of heated. But then, what's nice is he actually like, he's like, you know what? Like after he yells at them, they go away. He's like, you know what? Send him roses. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I was having a hard day. My bad. But that doesn't matter because the next thing that happens is he's walking under a light on the stage and it falls. And the cord was cut. It smashes this dude's head. He dies. Oh, no, he gets hit in the hospital.
But they don't know if they were like, they're like, someone's like, it looks like it was cut. And it's like, no, it was just an accident.
Well, the guy says it's smooth. Yeah. Like they're obviously tool cut on this, So it turns out, he's in the hospital. And I would say his name is Mick G, which I was like, there's a director named Mick G. He should be They should do this story arc. He should be in the movie as Mick G.
As Mick G.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then like, you know, Peter Parker. Oh, this is the best. Also, the clothes she wears in normal times, like also Peter Parker is wearing similar like weird stuff that you would, I don't know, I guess it was 90s stuff. He's wearing like a double-breasted leather jacket. Yeah. Like a motorcycle jacket, which I'm like, Peter Parker motorcycle jacket? All right.
Well, and that's the only thing I did not like was his hairstyle because it's very 90s.
It's very fucking awesome.
And it gave me like flashbacks of like my 90s hair.
Yeah.
It's very much kind of like a, you know, like a little fairly flat top. And then sometimes it's got a straight line, and then sometimes it looks like you got a rat tail.
Yeah. I like to think it's always a rat tail.
It's always a rat tail.
But yeah, so he dresses like a motorcycle guy for some reason. He's probably trying to like make it up because she looks so awesome.
Yeah, she
has fucking style in this. I don't know if Larson was like looking at fashion magazines while he's picking out shit for her. He did a good job of dressing her. So, and then they're going to like she's talking to him like, oh, this happened on set. He, you know, the director got hit by a light, and it might be, you know, something more or whatever. So they hint like, oh, there's something going on with that. And then the other story arc that happens is they're going to dinner with Aunt May, who's got a beau.
Yeah, she got a new boyfriend.
So Uncle Ben, it's Uncle Nathan, and
well,
I mean,
he's not Uncle Nathan.
I say that I was joking.
Yeah, he's Nathan for now.
He's Nathan, but they do live together.
Yeah, What I just mean like it seemed like Peter was kind of like, he's not Uncle Ben, but I'm kind of warming up to.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he doesn't think it's Uncle Ben, but I mean Aunt May's.
But yeah, Aunt May's like.
Aunt May's like.
I mean, he 80 and in a wheelchair, but something about him.
Something about him. I don't know. Maybe he got that good D. That's what it is.
Wow. Wow.
But anyway, Aunt May. I love the way the way he draws old people is very like, man, you never use lotion, do you? Did you ever in your entire life?
They're very
the wrinkliest old people ever. But it works because you're like, these people are fucking old.
Yeah.
So Aunt May, she looks 80,000 years old, and so does this guy Nathan. And we see they set up this thing where like the old man is like, hey, I gotta go do something real quick while you guys have dinner or whatever. And then he goes and takes a bunch of money out of his bank and goes to like somewhere, and Parker's like, huh, that's weird. I'm going to follow him and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And he ends up saving the old man because the old man's getting harassed by some street toughs.
Yeah, I have to say, in the 90s, I don't remember this being a thing, but in the 90s comic here, and why are there so many street gangs?
There's always street
Are there always street gangs? Okay.
Think of remember the X-Men, the God Loves Man Kills stuff?
Oh, yeah.
There's street gangs.
There's street
all
gangs.
over the place.
Street
this
gangs.
was the
always.
90s, the 80s. Crime.
This
is crime. There's crack epidemic happening, war on drugs, all this stuff.
Maybe I just wasn't out playing in the streets, so I didn't.
Yeah. You were in your house of wicked love, right? So
I have to deal with street gangs. So.
Yeah. But yeah, so they try to rob. I liked this. They try to rob the old man. Spider-Man shows up, you know, takes them all on. But then, the other thing that's great about this is that David Michelini writes well is Spider-Man's dialogue. He always does quips, and generally, I was telling John, I never laugh at them. Like, they're just like, it's kind of like when you see a comedian in a movie and he's telling jokes and the audience is like, and you're in the audience of the movie and you're like, it wasn't funny. And like, you know, I don't know why they're laughing, but I guess for the movie, we'll just go with it being funny. So I kind of like when I read Spider-Man comics, I'm like, he's making quips that are funny to him, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. But I never actually laugh out loud. In this one, I actually laughed out loud during like a lot of these fight scenes where he's talking to himself because he like the stuff that he says is very, very well written as far as like little quips that he would say to people and things. So I like that a lot. This is like the first Spider-Man comic that I've read where I'm like, that is exactly what people say Spider-Man is. And now I understand. Now I've read something that actually has that example. Yeah, nice. Because even like Kraven's Last Hunt is such a dark story. I didn't have much of that. He didn't really have, So, but that's still a good story at least. But this one actually feels like this, like the way Spider-Man. Everybody tells me is the greatest stuff about Spider-Man. Yeah. Anyway, Nathan's getting robbed. Spider-Man's saving him. And the one thing I liked is that Nathan hits the guy, like he actually saves himself at the end because the guy's like, I'm going to kill this old man if you don't, give me back the money. And then the old man takes his cane and no, I'm sorry, not him. An old lady comes up that was watching it all and hits him with a cane.
Yeah.
It's like the old people saved themselves, which I thought was fun. And then I'm like, these street toughs aren't that tough.
Yeah, none of the old people can.
The old lady, the 50-year-old lady beat up the 20-year-old street tough or whatever. So, but either way, Nathan was doing something with that money, and Spider-Man just marks it in the back of his mind, like, got to figure out what Nathan's up to.
We'll be back.
Because also, we don't know this at the beginning, but Nathan was a pretty hardcore gambler. He had a gambling addiction that he's not currently in, but like with May or whatever. But like Parker maybe knows that and is like, gotta make sure he's
keep
not,
an eye.
Yeah, what's going on with that? So, then we get to the next of the Sinister Six recruitment, and this one's interesting because in the first one, like you said, the Sandman isn't like, like let's kill Spider-Man, but he's not a bad guy, but he's not a good guy.
No, he's like, Spider-Man didn't make me go to jail, so I want some payback. But like he definitely doesn't want to like kill people or like really hurt anyone.
But in this one, he's even more so sympathetic. Yeah. He's like, I am on the straight and narrow. I don't want none of this. And what ends up happening is he says, or Doc Ock confronts him and says, if you don't join us, I will kill the family that you live with. That's like letting you live there nicely, and because he was a felon, or he is a felon, so he it's like the nice family that took him in and lets him stay with them and all that stuff. So he's like, oh my God, please don't kill them. Like they're like my family.
Okay,
me, so.
like let's do this one thing, and then we're good, right?
Yeah, and so we get that. Another thing about this is they will throw in other villains too, just to like keep the action going. That shit doesn't happen nowadays. Yeah. Like you read a comic now, and good luck if there's some action at all. Like, just even if you look at my reviews, a lot of my like gripes with comics are like, there was just two people talking the entire time. Nothing happened. Like, they just talked about going to get coffee or whatever, and then the issue ended. So like this, like they'll talk about getting coffee, and then like the shocker will come while they're still talking, and then that happens, and then they'll, hey, anyway, let's go get coffee after that thing. Like they'll throw in action scenes to keep it, moving, know. So, but in this one, this is like they throw in. They just kind of once the ball gets rolling with Doc Ock, he just moves through all these villains, and the next villain he goes to recruit is the Hobgoblin, who is.
I don't remember his backstory here, but they say he's not a man anymore. He's definitely
So he's not Green Goblin. That's
Norman Osborn.
That's Norman Osborn. It's Hobgoblin, who apparently used to be a man, got turned into a monster somehow, some accident or whatever in the past Spider-Man issues. So now he looks like fucking a demon, and he's not wearing a mask anymore. It's just his actual face. And he still like rides around on a glider and throws pumpkins and shit. So it's very similar to Green Goblin, but not the same. And then so Doc Ock just finds his lair, says like, hey, join me, and is attacked by Hobgoblin, who's like, I don't want to join you. But then he like is easily kind of beaten by Doc Ock, and then he's like, all right, we'll do it. Like, I'll do whatever. So there's just a lot of that going on. Like he just quickly, Doc Ock is able to really take over these bad guys pretty good. Like,
he definitely shows his dominance. Yeah.
In the meantime, that rocket is launched, and then the rocket lab that his lab was looking at ley lines. They launch it, or they're getting ready to launch it, I should say. And
apparently there's a rocket pad in Long Island.
Oh yeah. Yes. And not only that, he's like swinging around, and there's like nothing. There's no tall buildings around it.
What are you talking about? This Spider-Man kid just shoot his web up into the air and catch something?
You know what? They should do that. They should show like he can make like a sail or something. That pulls him.
That's so smart because when the baby spiders go, and out nowhere, like that's how they travel.
Exactly.
That's how they 100% should. Because that's like one people's complaint is like when he's not in like a tall building city, like
he's got to.
How does Spider-Man
even in the movies they show that like because Peter Parker's like, God damn it, like he's got to run across fucking.
He should do something where his web goes up, makes a little sail, and that's how he gets around.
Yeah, I like it. new power. Copyright us.
Yeah.
Right? Marvel.
we'll take our pay. You can get our coffee, Marvel.
Yeah,
online.
Exactly. Quick pause for our commercial. But anyway, back to the story. So yeah, he is watching a guy. There's like some corporate espionage that might come back later or something that they're showing. But basically, he catches a guy doing corporate espionage on the rocket being set up to being launched. And then we cut back to Mary Jane, who is at like I think she thought this dude was a cop, but she must have called the police station or something. And then, or this guy showed up after she made her report and pretended to be a police officer.
He does. He is at the police. He does.
He works with the police. He's like an assistant, he's like the guy that in the file. He's a file clerk.
Well, but his name is Officer Goldman to her. That's what she knows.
But that's what I'm saying. Was it just that because? So I'm saying he's not really an officer. Did she make a report and then he saw that report in the file?
I think so.
And then just came over and said, "Hi, I'm Officer Goldman. I'm looking into your case." And she's like, "Oh, hi, officer." So yeah, I think he's pretending to be a policeman in this one. And so he says we're going to look into that light thing because we think it's actually there was some in the past issues. I guess there was a killer or like a fan who was like obsessed with her.
Yeah.
So
Jonathan Caesar.
Yeah, Cesar. And so they're like, "Oh, it's probably this guy because he's out now, and so he probably went back to stalking you. We don't know where he is, so just be on the lookout." So that's like the what's going on with her. Some guy named Jonathan Caesar is apparently trying to kill people in her life and eventually get to her or whatever. So then we find out. We cut to like the Nathan and Aunt May storyline, and we find out he's like getting worse. His sickness is getting worse. And then that we just get a reminder, like it's a reminder to us and Peter. Oh yeah, I got to look into that money thing that he was doing. So, but like he feels very like he can't do anything because obviously as a superhero you can't fight a disease.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm Spider-Man, but I can't do nothing. And so, but we see how much I always felt like this was cool. They show like Nathan and her and their relationship and how like they actually do love each other a lot. And you're like. You're not sure if he's bad or something now. So some of the panels show it like he's wearing sunglasses indoors, so you can't see his eyes. So it's kind of like, is he evil or is he just old? You know, like so. But yeah. And then we also get a storyline of Felicia Hardy, who's Black Cat, and Flash Thompson. And this is kind of where we see like Peter's insecurities come up again because we already saw he's kind of insecure compared to like Iron Man and stuff. And then I guess, he used to date Felicia. And so she knows that he's Spider-Man and he knows that she's Black Cat. So she's getting back at him by dating Flash as like a joke or whatever. Yeah. She's fucking with him. And I liked this story arc, actually.
I actually did too.
Once again, I'll just say this. Flash knows how to dress. All right, for the 90s, right?
For the 90s, he's very much. He looks like a workout bro.
He is a workout bro. He's got pants, and there's an arrow pointing to his dick on his pants, and it's not supposed to be an arrow. I think they're just lightning bolts. But the way that the design looks, there's an arrow pointing down to his dick, and I'm sure Eric Larson knew that. And then, and the second thing is he has his hair. He's a hairy motherfucker. I miss hair on guys in comics, specifically like Wolverine. Whenever they would draw Wolverine or Flash Thompson, apparently, or Nightwing, which I was reading too, those guys had the hairiest fucking arms and like shoulders and everything. Like I'm like, wow, they just like went all out with me. So I'm like, they never do that anymore. That's so weird. So I guess they're just like everybody fucking uses Nair or whatever on their arms and legs now. All the superheroes. That must be.
They have important things to do. Like shave.
Yeah, they got to shave their arms and stuff. So, but yeah, so just this, know this storyline's going on where Peter and him, like he's got to pretend to be happy for Flash, but he knows what she's doing, so it's kind of like a weird. It seems like he's jealous because he doesn't there's like Mary Jane can see he doesn't like what's happening between them, and so Mary Jane's like, "What? Are you like jealous?" Because it's your ex-girlfriend. Yeah. We're fucking married, so why would you be jealous? That kind of creates tension between them.
She's like, no, I'm just worried about Flash, who he's never really been worried about before, but like I guess they're a little closer now.
I think they're
like
buds in this
they're
now.
buds now.
And then he says, "No, like I'm just worried about Flash. That's all." And he's like, "Well, mostly because maybe he still does have feelings for her. We don't know. They kind of like plant the seed that maybe there is something there." And so we get lots of stuff like that, which is fun. I think it's interesting they throw in things like that because it's just a small story point, but they throw it out there and then it comes back around and actually makes sense. So
but basically it's there to show that like they're married, but there's a lot of little things that keep getting in the way of like them being like happy all the time.
Yeah. So they're on their way, Peter Parker and Mary. They're on their way to some like event where the actual Captain America, which doesn't make any sense to me, the actual Captain America, instead of like saving people or whatever, he's doing like the movie where he would like do propaganda stage stuff or whatever. So he's doing like a play, like a reenactment of a fight with someone to, I don't know, sell war bombs or some shit. I don't know.
I don't know what it is for. It's to raise funds for the public library. That's right.
Okay. Well, still, why is the real Captain America doing this?
Yeah.
So anyway, he's doing that, and everybody's like, "Yay!" And then he's like, "You want to go meet Captain America?" And Mary Jane's like, "Are you for real?" And he's like, "I'm in the press." And so like he pulls out his press card. He goes in, and then they're like, "Oh, you just missed him." And then you see like a rocket flying away, like the Avengers rocket or whatever. And he's like, "God damn it!" And then right as that happens, he's like, "Just what I needed to like look like a fucking idiot again in front of Mary Jane or whatever." And then right when that happens, the Shocker comes out. They do like a big old fight scene, which I thought this was like a really good fight scene, just because like I don't know the way everybody's thinking thought bubbles in this, and you get to see like they reveal things like power sets that I didn't know that the Shocker had. Like the way that he can control his gloves and shit. I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. But he's like, I'll just atomize the air around me to like move, like shift sideways slightly or whatever. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could fucking do that.
Yeah, he could use them to like control himself too. Yeah, it's cool.
It was cool. Like I like that they did all that. And then at the end of this, like everybody's like, yeah, Spider-Man, because he beats the shit out of Electro. And then
of Shocker.
I'm sorry. Shocker.
You're fine. Well, and the funny thing is the people that are there are just like, man, they're really going all out for this library and raising funds for it.
Yeah, they think it's like another like play or something going on because the real Captain America was in the other one. Now the real Spider-Man's fighting the real Shocker. I don't know. That seems like what's going on. So
sure.
Then we get the recruitment of Mysterio, who we all know Mysterio from the second Spider-Man movie. Mm-hmm. So, but basically he has the same powers as that movie. Basically, he can make holograms that can change, that look like reality shifting to people. Yeah. So he can do like a bank robbery where he makes the truck robbery where he makes the truck think the bridge is down, but it's actually there. It's just holograms looking like, the realities.
Yeah. And I do like the way they changed it for the MCU, but I do like that he's an old special effects guy. And like a master criminal too. Like, yes. I always liked Mysterio. He's always been one of my favorite villains.
Yeah, he's very cool. But yeah, he gets what's it called? Recruited.
Yeah, Doc Ock's like, hey, you could keep doing that, or you could help me with something greater, with like the ultimate kind of heist.
And Mysterio's like, all right, like, he doesn't even need more than that. Like if you go through it, like Electro was like, oh yeah, get me out of here, and then Hobgoblin was like, and he just like basically strangles him and says, you will fucking do this, and he's like, all right. And so like this is not too willing, and then like Sandman's not willing either.
No,
so this isn't very team like Sinister Six. So.
Mysterio's like, I've got nothing better to do, so
and then they show Kingpin in here too. I don't know why necessarily. I guess they set up that the Vulture's working for him. Yeah. So it's just like, oh my God, like it's all connected, the Daredevil universe and this universe, and because Kingpin's a Spider-Man villain, but he's also mainly the Daredevil villain at this time at least. So, yeah. But the Vulture's working for him.
I love how gigantic the Kingpin always is. Like,
he wasn't always. I mean, he used to look like a normal person.
Well, he was like a normal person, but he was still kind of bigger. What happened was
bigger. Sinkovich and Frank Miller kind of beefed him up, and then Eric Larson, who's used to drawing a little more cartoony and a little more Savage Dragon stuff, just exploded his body.
Oh, is he the one who did this and made the Kingpin like the?
No. Bill Sienkiewicz is the one that did the one that was in the movie where he's got the tiny head and the giant body. But this is around the same time, so he might have just been looking at that and go. Eric Larson might have said, "Oh, I'll just make him like that, but a more less stylized, but, closer to." He looks like a real person, just a giant person with a tiny head, though.
Yeah,
and so it's like Chris Farley's always like, "Do I have a tiny head?" Like, yeah, it's like that. Yeah. He looks very imposing though, so very, very well done. But yeah, so the Vulture's working for him, and then Spider-Man is like doing his normal thing, going around. He's following up with Nathan, seeing how Nathan is, and he actually finds out what was going on. I thought this was funny. This was like one of the laugh out loud things that happened. So he's like, as he's spider webbing around the place, he's like, I gotta figure out what's going on with Nathan. So he goes there to Aunt May's house, and he's like, "Hey, Aunt May, I just wanted to try one of your famous oat bran milkshakes." And she's like, "Oh, Peter, I'll make it." And he's like, "Great, that'll take some time, so I'll talk to Nathan while she's in the kitchen." And then he says like, "Hey, what's going on about money or whatever?" And like Nathan's like, "How'd you know about it?" He's like, "Don't bother about, like, don't even think about how I know about it.
I got connections."
Yeah. You just he basically says, "I'm a crime journalist or whatever, so like I know crimes or whatever. So you tell me what's going on." And basically he cashed in his life insurance and placed a bet that he thinks he's gonna like win out because he's gonna die soon and everything. So then May will stay
and be set
for life or whatever. But here's the funny thing. So as he finishes that and he's like, "Oh, okay, like I thought it was something evil or whatever." She comes in with the shake and she's like, "Oh, here, sweeter, or here, Peter, I sweetened it with prunes." And he's like, "Oh, the shake. Yum." Like, that just made me laugh because he didn't want it at all or whatever. And he's just like, "Fuck, I gotta drink this now." So I thought that was funny that, like, he had to eventually drink it. And then this is the only thing I was like, why did this necessarily need to happen? But, so this ties into the Nathan bet, right?
Yeah.
So Nathan bet that this guy, what was the guy's name? Trask. That Trask is going to die during some event.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the event is, but it's a yacht unveiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So later on, Peter's got to take a picture of a yacht being unveiled from this rich guy. Imagine Jeff Bezos is revealing a yacht, and all of the media is like, "We have to get a shot of this yacht" for some fucking reason.
Because that stuff is important.
Because celebrity, whatever. And so he's going to get assassinated, and I guess Nathan knows that. So Nathan's like, or Nathan knows about it. I don't know how he knew about it, but he's like, and he placed a bet on that guy dying because he knows that people are trying to kill him that are in high places.
Yeah.
High places being the Vulture. That is how the Kingpin wants him dead. So the Vulture is hired to kill him. And then at the same time, the guy who hired, or the guy who was like working with, or who knew about the Vulture and stuff, he's getting a second guy to come for like backup killing, just in case.
Just in case.
And this guy's name is Nicholas Powell. And what's his actual bad guy name? I don't remember what his bad guy name is.
Chance, I think is his name.
Chance. That's what.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this one before. He's got a weird.
He's kind of a C-list villain or something, but apparently he's got a goofy costume too. But he's apparently like a big, a big assassin or whatever. So that's basically. So that's the storyline with Nathan is he has put a bet on Trask's life that he's going to die. And now we see there's one big villain and one B villain that are going to try to kill him. So you're like, oh, maybe it will pay out.
Yeah.
So that's why he put a bet on it. And then we cut to MJ, who was it's MJ and Peter. She's getting out of a cab.
Yeah. I guess she's bending over to like kiss him by or
yeah, and this is the most cheesecakey shot in this scene or in this comic, I guess. This whole arc is she's bending over in what was 90s booty shorts, I guess you'd say. This was like if you were I could see if I was on this is the page my mom I'm reading these comics.
You're reading this comic normally, yeah.
And I'm just normally reading and I turn to this page and I'm like, "Oh, wow. Nice butt, legs,
nice butt,
cool."
yeah. Ooh,
and
I'm a 13-year-old kid,
yes,
man.
And then my mom would walk in and be like, "What are you reading?" And then be like, "Oh my God, trash! Marvel has changed."
Marvel, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is probably on the line. I'm sure they got maybe
when you post about it in our coffee, you should definitely use this picture
okay.
so people can see what you're
Good
talking
point.
about.
Good idea. I will when I do our coffee post, our blog post where I post everything for the week. I will make this the picture for it so that everybody can see the famous MJ booty shot from the Sinister Six.
To which Peter Parker thinks to himself, "Beautiful, famous, and all mine."
All mine.
All of it.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
So we are at the yacht picture or the yacht event where Peter Parker is going to take pictures for his newspaper. And once again, Raymond Trask is the guy who's going to be assassinated, and he is an Elon Musk type or whatever. So that's why everybody's there. And immediately, as he's like, "Everybody, welcome to my yacht," or whatever, the Vulture attacks and begins throwing bombs and shit at him. So obviously Peter Parker's like, "Oh, I got it. Swing into action." So I like that they don't take the time to show him think, "Oh no, the Vulture, let me go change."
Yeah.
And then run to change it. And then he's just automatically the next panel as the Vulture's attacking is like Spider-Man in motion, flying at him. Yeah. And he's throwing his spider webs or whatever. And then, so they have a big fight, a very cool fight. I loved all the fighting in this. I thought every time Spider-Man would do something, he would explain how he's taking out the villains. And it all made sense, like, because he's like, "I'm a scientist. This is physics." Like, I thought, oh, that's exactly like what he would do. I think because he would he would shoot the Vulture's hands with a web, and then since the Vulture's hands are tied to his wings, he could like pull one of them, and that would make the Vulture fall out of the sky, and then he would like dive down. Not the Vulture, but Spider-Man would like make himself aerodynamic and like pull him down because of gravity and shit, and that would and then he would fly around him with webs and shit. So it was just like he was trying to beat him like with brains and run, which I thought was fun. And he's like thinking all of this stuff out loud, or not out loud, to us, while we're like reading it. So it's like not only do you get fight pages, but you get to see what they're thinking in their head. So it really, I don't know, it illustrated that like, oh, he's like actually a really good tactician or whatever against his villains specifically. Like he's thought about how to beat these people. So as he's beating the Vulture, we see the Chance guy come out of nowhere in his stupid suit, and Chance starts blasting lasers at him, and he all he has to do is web over his hands, which have guns, and then web his face, and that pretty much takes care of
Crazy Spider-Man.
That takes care of Chance. He just is like, "Well, I gotta make sure I don't go to jail. See ya," and he just gets out of there, and then the Vulture. And I didn't know that. I mean, I don't know if we saw that Aunt May and Nathan are there too. Just they happen to be also looking at this.
Yeah.
And he's like, the Vulture sees her and is like, "Ooh, an old woman. Perfect. Spider-Man will never fight me if this old woman's in danger." So he goes after Aunt May, which is, not going to happen with Spider-Man. So Spider-Man instantly saves her.
Well, no. He goes after Aunt May.
Oh, yeah.
But then Nathan is like, "Hey, get off my woman." And this was cool.
Yeah,
I actually like this panel. Nathan grabs him, and he flies up with Nathan just straight up out of the wheelchair.
Yes.
And this next page is really well done, like long panels of him flying up and then like the Vulture dropping him and then Spider-Man saving him just in the nick of time.
But like the whole time he's like, "Oh my God, so high up, the fall, I'll die, my heart," like my heart. So like I love the way that they do that whole like Nathan thing, and also you get to see Nathan fucking he's 85 years old in a wheelchair and he's still like, "Bitch, get off my woman!" like how dare you attack me? And so like he loves that Aunt May.
Yeah.
So we get to see that he actually cares about her in this, which I thought was a good arc. If you're gonna make him seem kind of like he's doing something bad, like gambling or whatever they're insinuating, or even before that you didn't know what the money was for. At least they're like now making up for it, being like, "No, he cares about Aunt May, and that's why he was doing those things."
Yeah.
So, but Doc Ock shows up as like the Vulture's about to be arrested by all these cops and shit, and they're all flying. Like they make it seem like the police have
a bunch of helicopters,
50 helicopters,
something like that.
Yeah, they're flying towards the Vulture. So out of nowhere, the Octocraft comes.
The Octocraft.
And he's like, Vulture, come with me. I don't know you said the accent was.
It's like Austrian German, and it's like that. Okay, in my head, because I've been such a big fan of the '90s cartoon. He's like, it's a deeper too. He's like, oh, what are you doing? Yeah. Come on, Vulture, come with me. I can't do it exactly.
The Vulture,
but he looks very similar to that '90s one too. That's why I said.
Yeah, okay.
They obviously.
Well, I mean,
nice
this
cartoon.
is what
90s,
was going on at the time with that cartoon. It's like this is
Yeah.
like the art style or whatever. So, but at the end of that, Nathan dies.
He dies in May's arms.
In May's arms. So like Vulture gets away, and then Aunt May's holding him, and he's like, he's all frail and shit. And she's like, "Please, dear, don't die. The paramedics are coming." And he's like, "I wanted to leave things to you, but now I leave you nothing," because he also saw that Trask didn't get killed. So that was his bet. He bet on Trask.
So Spider-Man ruined everything.
Yeah, Spider-Man made it so Aunt May is going to get poor.
Thanks, Spider-Man.
Forever. So then he dies. And then he dies in her fucking arms. So, Aunt May is now broken heart. We start off the next issue with the funeral. And everybody's saying nice things about him, except I thought this was funny. Everybody is like, Nathan was great. He was awesome. And then the minister, the guy that's at the funeral, be like, he was great or whatever, is like, hypocrites. Nathan was nothing but an old grouch. Like, what a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Like, so the preacher, the priest or whatever is, the one that's a dick. So I thought that was interesting. So then we cut after that funeral to now we finally have the full Sinister Six. Yes, they're combined again. And they even say, this is like last time didn't work, but this time I have a full plan. And so they actually reference the old 60s issue, and now he says, this is the same people as last time, except we don't have Craven, God rest his soul.
God rest
so we have Hobgoblin to replace him. But this time, we definitely will be able to get him. And he reveals his plan.
We're gonna hold the world ransom.
Yeah, they're gonna hold the world ransom.
So this is a world event, but with just Spider-Man.
Yes, just Spider-Man because they show. I mean, there's all these superheroes, but they're all busy doing other shit. We already saw Iron Man fly over and just like lift something, and then that's it. And then we saw Captain America; he's busy raising funds for the library. And then even later, we'll see Nova fly over and just totally not hear Parker yell for help.
One of these panels looks like Wolverine and like the Punisher there too.
You know what? That is Wolverine. I didn't even. There's no way that's not Wolverine.
Yeah, just because the hairstyle is 100%.
Wow. I did not. He's just in. His hairstyle is totally recognizable. I can't believe that.
He's just walking around New York.
Yeah, it must be their day off. Maybe it was him and Colossus or something. I don't know. That's not a very good Colossus.
I thought maybe it was Frank Castle.
I don't think they're friends, though. Maybe they are this time. I don't
know.
If any of the X-Men and Castle are going to be friends, it's
Wolverine.
Wolverine. So maybe that's the case. Either way. Either that or it's just like he decided to throw a guy in that looks like Wolverine. Whatever. Anyway, we get them talking to each other, Mary Jane and Peter Parker, and they're walking, and they were talking about like, oh, we should, what are we eating tonight or whatever. Pretty simple conversation. And then all of a sudden they get in a fight. I don't know. He just says, basically she's like, what do you want to eat? And he's like, I don't know. What do you want to eat? And then, I think this fight happens a lot with couples. Yeah. It's always like, what do you want to eat? And they're like, I don't know. I could go for Chinese. Like, oh, you want Chinese? Well,
I could also.
And it's like, bitch, make up your mind. So I can see why he gets mad. But he's also mad because fucking not Ben. Nathan just died, and May is really hurt and everything.
And and he's got Doc Ock to think about. Like, there's a lot of things going on.
So the reason why this is important is because he kind of lashes out at her and she's like, just leave me alone. And then we see in a panel someone being like, abusive and writing down. So you're like, oh shit, this is her stalker who's like writing down things of people like mistreating her or whatever. So, and also she's fuming after this. She's like, oh my God, I've never seen Peter so. And then she realizes that she's walking up the stairs that he's, hurt or whatever. So she kind of like, okay, I'll be the bigger person here. He's going through a lot, so I'll apologize. And as she opens the door, she's about to say, Peter, I'm sorry. And he's like, I'm sorry. I'm just all sad about Aunt May, and please forgive me. And we get a good illustration of what I was talking about with him being too busy and it getting involved in their marriage kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's like, can you forgive me? And she's like, well, if you put it that way, I guess I could be persuaded.
Wow, chicka, wow, wow.
Yeah. And then he's like, can I persuade you after I get back from school? I got to do a project. And then he's like, the ley line project. Or I guess he says it out loud. I thought it was in his head, but he says, Doc Swan's awaiting, and I'm afraid the ley lines have no sense of romance. And she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, no lady would be accepting of that.
Her phrase of it, though, like, I'll keep the dead rat warm.
Well, that's because she had said like something about a dead rat earlier. Oh, because in the foods.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she had been like, do you want this or that? Or this? And he kept saying, yeah. And so she said, a dead rat? And he's like, yeah. So then now she said, I'll keep the dead rat warm. And he's like, what? Because he didn't even hear her say that earlier. So that was like a joke, but she would totally actually have a dead rat for him if someone did that in real life.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You don't leave your lady hot and bothered for some stupid ley line project that you're working on for work. So, but Peter didn't learn that from his aunt. So, I don't know if do kids get that. You never leave your lady hot and bothered. That's like a lesson that your uncle has to teach you. Your weird uncle. You never leave a lady unsatisfied and then go to work.
That's true. That's on Spider-Man. That makes me think of the Spider-Man. What's the web? Not Web of Shadows. What was the Into the Spider-Verse?
Yeah.
Where his uncle's the one that's like, be like, oh, you got a girl, right? You do the shoulder thing.
Yeah.
Hey,
shoulder thing.
like that. That's exactly.
Yes. So, but this is creepier than that. So
oh yeah, this is much creepier.
Creepier information than that. For an uncle to tell you.
Yeah.
But so anyway, then we cut to why the Sinister Six were really formed. It's part of Doc Ock's plan. They are stealing a new element called Brundonite.
Brundonite, yeah.
Wow. And it's a new element that's just found. I don't know if that was going on in the 90s or something, but it seemed kind of like weird that they would just find an element. But they just found a new element called Brundonite, and it just so happens to be the antidote to the thing that Doc Ock. It's a poison that they're going to poison the earth with.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've said the full.
I don't think we got full into the plan, but
we could just say it, though.
Yeah, all of the villains, like, they pair up kind of, and they're going to go do something specific to, like, help start this plan.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's Goblin and Mysterio, and they're going to steal the only...
Yes, it's like a rock, and this is the new element, a rock called Brundonite. And so they're stealing it. You know, Spider-Man shows up, but they do get the Brundonite. And then this was we cut to a part where this is, like I said, it's just, you will cut to things that don't really have story arcs, but they have, or like, they're not really pertinent to the story that was like the main story of the Sinister Six, but they were set it up. So this is the Flash Thompson, what's her name? Hardy?
Felicia Hardy.
Felicia Hardy, there you go. And they get confronted while hanging out at the basketball court.
By another street gang.
Yeah, another one. They're all over the place. So, but previous to the gang showing up, she, is trying to love all over him. But then in her mind, she's like, the perfect fool, Spider-Man's best friend, and now I've got you hooked. And so, like, she knows she's fucking with him.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna break his heart.
Yeah, that's the whole plan. I'm gonna break Peter's best friend, and then I'll break Peter a little bit, And then, so initially, these street toughs come up and say, I want your purse, and Flash is like, here's your purse. And she's like, what a weakling. Can't even defend me. And then they're like, and while we're at it, we'll get some of this sugar. And they like reach for Felicia's arm and they grab her because they're going to like rape her is what they're suggesting. Or sexually assault her some way. And that's it. Flash, it does what anybody should do and beats the shit out of all these guys.
Yeah.
And he even says, I'm a boxer. And he like, he gives the old Jack Johnson or whatever, so he beats the shit out of him, and then Felicia's on the ground, and he's like, you okay, babe? And he's got her purse too, and she's like, it's like in her head, she's thinking, all my life, I've been on my own. No one's ever stood up for me until now. Like, so she's actually falling for Flash, I think, right here. This is the moment she realizes, I actually do love Flash Thompson. So, this is the big reveal there. So that storyline is finished finally, and or at least it's concluded for this arc. And then so then like you said, the people paired up. So we had Hobgoblin and Mysterio. They got the Brundonite. Then we cut to Sandman and
the
the Vulture, and they teamed up to steal an aqua tank. A weird thing. It's a tank that goes underwater.
Tank that goes underwater.
All right, so it's like a submarine tank. So they fight, but they eventually do get the tank.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, there's a funny part where this is exactly what I was saying. He got to learn how to do his web thing because he has to take a boat. He has to take a boat to follow where they're going. He thinks so. He's like, "Hold on, hey guys, can you help me?" And then, in the second that he's asking for help from this boat, he sees Nova flying over, and he's like, "Hey, no!" Oh, he's already gone. Like,
yeah,
like,
the other heroes in this, and they're just like they're busy. They got their own things.
But I just thought they show Nova's face. He's just smiling like it's the best day ever, just flying full speed, not hearing anything Peter Parker's saying. So I thought that was a fun thing. And then we cut to some guy. We don't know who this guy is. We haven't seen him yet in this comic. But what we do see is he has lots and lots of scandalous pictures of Mary Jane.
Of framed pictures of Mary Jane.
But they're not just framed pictures. They're her in lingerie. I'm assuming these are like modeling shots.
Oh, yeah. You can. Yeah, they very much look like.
And he's planning his big plan. So this is the guy. What was his name?
Jonathan Caesar.
Jonathan Caesar. I'm glad he says that every fucking time.
Yeah.
But so he doesn't. They do it smartly though. It's not out there like Stan Lee would do, where he's like, "I, Jonathan Caesar, am." No, he says the ideal honeymoon spot for Mrs. Jonathan Caesar. So we know this is Jonathan Caesar.
Yeah.
So this is the guy she's been trying to hide from, or like who's been stalking her at least through the comic. And his plan is to kidnap her, take her to an island. She can't escape from an island because the sharks will get her if she tries to escape. Yep. It's a perfect plan. I will have a woman forever on my island. So then we cut to Electro, who is stealing plans for the rocket so that they can modify it to send out the poison or whatever.
Yeah, because they're gonna put a satellite.
Yeah, we haven't said what it is. They haven't said exactly what it is, but basically, they're going to take over the satellite that Peter's company has been making to do ley lines, and then or to like map out the ley lines on Earth. They're going to take that over. It's going to distribute a poison around the Earth, and then they will have the cure called Brundonite, and that will be the ransom for the Earth or whatever. So that is the main plan. So they are fighting. Spider-Man loses before he doesn't lose, but like Electro gets away because the Octocraft shows up and takes him away. That Octocraft is apparently very, very fast, and because it flies, and Spider-Man can't
fly.
Hover on the air.
Yeah, he can't. Yeah,
like
he can't.
Matt Hansen suggested. We both did. Matt Hansen, John Johnson, TM, Web, Sale. What would it be called? What would the move be called? I don't know what it'd be called. We'll think about it.
Well, yeah, we'll think on it.
But yeah, so basically he loses them, but he gets a little piece of the paper that's ripped that says, it's got like words on it, and it looks like a part of the Cortico system, which is the system he's been working on. So he knows what he's been working on. He's like, oh my God, how do they have these plans? And so we get them now. Finally, everything's together. Yeah. Everything finally is coming together with the plan.
And this is the interesting part, because you get that Doc Ock has like ulterior motives, because they're all like, all right, we got it all, Doc. And they're like, so how are you making the antidote there? And like, do we need to take it first? And he's like, don't you worry about that. I am doing the chemistry. I am the scientist.
I am the chemist.
He's like, little do they know my real plan.
And so yeah. He doesn't whisper that though. He just
it's in his head.
Yeah, it'd be awesome if he says it. They don't know what I'm really planning.
Why don't I have an internal monologue right now?
We heard what you said. We heard everything.
We heard everything.
Yeah. So yeah, the night is now the night of the rocket launch. I don't know how long it's been since that kidnapping not kidnap, but the heist of those three things that they needed for this, but they had to at least get it all together. So maybe it's like a month later, and so they're in the underwater sub monitoring everything. The Octotank.
I'm just assuming he rebranded it one now that it's his.
There you go.
It's the underwater. The underwater tank.
Yeah. So they're in the underwater tank, and basically they've just been hiding here. Now that the plans are set, they're like, okay, we're gonna hide, and now we're ready to begin. If the rocket launch is about to happen, let's go there. So and
this is where you see the first cracks, because Sandman's like, Man, I don't know about this could kill like millions of people if like things don't like work out quick enough.
Yeah, like the poison will murder him.
Yeah, and Sandman's like, I don't know about this, Doc, and he's like, you think I care about it? What do you think?
Yeah.
We're doing my plan.
We're doing my plan. And so Spider-Man, knowing that it's going to involve the rocket, is already on site, kind of planning. He's watching it. He's making sure he's aware of what's going on. He takes time to go back to see Aunt May for a little bit because she's like nothing's happened at the rocket site yet. So he goes and visits Aunt May for a little bit to cheer her up since Nathan died. And when he's done with that, he's walking back home, and he's just walking on the street normal, like Peter Parker. And all of a sudden, a cinder block falls out of nowhere and almost crushes him. And he's like, what the heck? So he runs in an alley, goes up the wall, and sees a missing cinder block on the roof edge, and it looks like someone's used a chisel. And then we get a fantastic scene of Mary Jane doing yoga.
We're working out.
Yeah, well, she's like, in 5 and 6. I guess she's like doing stretches or something with her. Yeah. So either way, fantastic panel. And she's in. This is like before, what are those Lululemons or whatever. Yeah. So this is whatever 90s version of Lululemons. But I will say the next page they're talking to each other about like their relationship and stuff, and like he says, "Oh yeah, someone tried to kill me," and maybe it's that Jonathan Caesar, and like it's weird because there's a stalker trying to kill his wife, but Spider-Man's got so many things going on, he's not really like hasn't been paying attention to that necessarily, and so she, I think, because of this conversation, is like, well, I'll make sure it could have been an accident, but she's like, no. She's gonna take charge, and the way that he draws her taking charge, like as far as like when she makes up her mind after this conversation, that Spider-Man ain't gonna be there for, no one's gonna be there for except her.
She gonna do it.
She gonna take things into her own hands. She looks like, I guess what they call it, a badass bitch or whatever. the way that they draw her hair is fucking on fire and flowing. It is fantastic looking because it's so red, and the way it's like moving, and she's got this very ambitious look on her face. So then we cut to the bad guy's base where, I don't know, people are fucking around and Doc Ock is trying to make his poison. He's like, please, people, calm down or whatever. And,
I think they're getting antsy, and he's like, you be careful. That stuff is delicate and deadly.
Yeah. And so and that was just to show us what they were doing, I guess, because then we cut back to Mary Jane, who I guess is either later that day or the next day. Or it says the next morning. There you go. The next morning is going to do whatever she's going to do, and she takes she goes to the bus stop with Peter, and she's like, oh, I'm going to take the bus. You have a great day. Bye. And then she's like, I know exactly what I'm going to do.
She goes into the store. I thought, because when she goes,
it's funny. No, yeah. Let me set this up because I thought the same thing you did. She walks into the store, and you think, okay, she's going shopping or whatever. And it's like we met him, maybe a service, and then she's like, oh, well, you see, I was just looking, and then she's looking around, and then he's like, could you show me something nice? And then we cut to a panel of, it's a gun store. It's like a fancy gun store.
Yeah, and I thought it was like a jewelry store, the way they have it all like set up and lined, and this guy in a like friggin' like penguin outfit or a tuxedo.
Yeah, and then she's like, could you show me something nice? He's like, a 38 special. And then, I was like, hell yeah. Mary Jane taking shit
Is this the kind of gun stores they have in New York?
Apparently they're very fancy. And, take that shit into your own hands. Right? Yeah. I don't know if David Michelini is a two-way fan or not, but in this, Mary Jane is a fan. Right?
Yes.
So she don't got time for cops, and Spider-Man ain't going to be there because he's busy with Doc Ock and everything. So sometimes you got to defend yourself. And so, anyway, we cut to the hospital where Mick G has been in stasis for a while since that light fell on him in the first issue.
That was a big light.
It was a big light. It was a big light. I'll give him that. But he's like in the hospital, and then all of a sudden, the fucking stalker shows up. Jonathan Caesar comes in his room and he says, "I want you to write a note, say, Mary Jane, I'm out of the hospital. I'd love to meet with you tonight to talk about your scene and to apologize or whatever for what happened. So please meet me tonight at this place." He does that under threat of being killed by a poison that Jonathan has. And after he's done with the note, Jonathan injects him anyway, and he dies. So Nick G does not sleep well. He's murdered. And then finally we get the main story.
Yes.
The main bad guy's story is wrapping up here. So Peter Parker is at the launch, of course, because it's part of his project. Immediately as it starts, the tank bursts through the fence. And, the sequence is counting down or whatever. And the tank, with all the bad guys, they're ready to go. The tank bursts through the fence.
Ha-ha.
Everybody comes out, takes out all the cops and all the security and everything. And then they're able to, with their powers together, get the upper hand. Now, I will say, there are security guards there, or police at least, who have Uzis, which I thought was I was like, dude, he's drawing too much Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
Because
that was very 90s them to have
guns
friggin'
that
like
police
Uzi
have
guns.
in this are ridiculous. So, but yeah, they literally have the biggest Uzis you've ever seen. And so the Spider-Man's fighting them because, like I said, he just shows up out of nowhere after you see Peter on site. So
Yeah.
I like that, though. I like that. We can assume he ran somewhere and put his fucking costume on. So he swings into action. Then he's like, oh, my God, Sandman's with him. Like Sandman, I thought he was good, but apparently he's turned bad. So while everybody's distracting Peter, Doc Ock puts the poison in the ship, and the ship takes off while everybody's there. And then also while they're fighting, I should say the ship doesn't take off yet, but there's fighting. And it's counting down still. It's about to take off.
And at least they're fighting right. Like Spider-Man is like kind of getting one of them, and then another one like
yes, it's not like the other one where they're individually
yeah.
fighting.
So then they actually start working together and like actually getting the upper hand on Spider-Man.
Yes, and so, but what happens also is that Spider-Man realizes because of Doc Ock is going to kill Spider-Man, and then Sandman saves him and says, "I can't let you kill this kid. Like, I know you said you were going to kill my family, but I can't let you kill this kid." So then Spider-Man's like, hey, he's not bad. But Doc Ock has already has a contingency plan for this. He, turns Sandman into glass, which apparently was from another issue somewhere else.
He pulls out, like, this little weird
It's like a heat
laser
gun that turns the sand into glass or whatever. So it melts Sandman into glass, and then this is the only gun that turns him out of that, too, apparently. So Spider-Man can't let that gun go. But the rocket ship takes off because Doc Ock goes to the control center and says, "You fucking push that button or I'll kill someone." And he does kill someone.
Oh yeah,
he snaps a scientist's neck.
He snaps their neck with it. I did not expect that. I was like, oh damn, so Doc Ock ain't playing around.
He kills one of these scientists and he makes the other ones launch the shuttle.
I'm sorry, and beep, and the other scientist makes the rocket go.
So it goes off, and in the meantime, Spider-Man was kind of distracted by the rocket going off, and the Hobgoblin is like, ooh, we put poison on that ship, and now everybody's going to die. And guess what? And as, Spider-Man was looking up or whatever, he releases the poison onto Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so now Spider-Man breathes
stole
in.
a little bit, I guess, from the poison.
Yes, and so Spider-Man breathes in the poison, and he's like, you have 15 seconds to live. And that's where we leave that issue. And now we're on the last issue where Spider-Man is apparently dying. He's about to die. And I love the cover is just Doc Ock strangling him, going, die, 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 die. It's a good cover. But then everybody's standing around Spider-Man as he's kind of choking, and they're like, why isn't he dead? That's the first panel is, you thought he was going to die, and then you waited a month, and then the first panel is, why isn't he dead? This is I just imagine them saying it very nonchalantly.
Yeah.
But
the villains are they're all standing around in a circle, and you
poking
Vulture,
him with a stick.
kicks him with his leg. He's like, wait, he's still breathing. What's going on?
Yeah. But basically we find out, Doc Ock reveals, haha, you're all stupid. I had a second plan that was better than the original plan because I don't want to rule a dead world. I don't want to kill everybody. I want to rule people. So what he actually did, this was the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
But he made a poison that's actually a cure for cocaine addiction. Meaning, I don't know if it's a cure, but he calls it a cure because it makes you die or you go into convulsions if you do cocaine. So it makes you allergic to cocaine, basically.
Yeah.
And so his thing is that once he releases this gas, most people won't be hurt except all the powerful people who do cocaine, which is all the movie actors, all the producers, and everybody.
All the people, all the
anybody cool.
Assume, yeah.
Anybody cool.
Yeah. In the 90s, if you were cool, You were doing lines of cocaine.
Hell yeah.
Obviously.
So like Robert Downey Jr., he's going to have control of.
In the 90s.
In the 90s.
Yeah. We're not saying anything back now.
Yeah, I mean, we all know.
Yeah.
Pauly Shore. This is the 90s. He's going to have Hollywood's best in his pocket, all right?
All right, Weasel, you're mine now.
I am the Weasel. You say it. Don't do that anymore, okay? It's weird. Yeah, but so yeah, that's his stupid plan, is to make cocaine illegal, and it turns out he will have the only cure, which is actually, or the antidote for that, is the Brundonite. So he's still doing his thing. It's just in a different way or whatever. It's not hurting everybody. It's just hurting the elites who can afford cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not crack cocaine. It's just
cocaine.
Real like powdered cocaine.
Yeah.
So
the other villains though are not okay with this. They are pissed off.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, screw you, Doc. Like we're getting out of here."
Yes. So they all escape, and then except Sandman, and Sandman gets turned back in because Peter Parker's a nice guy and saved that gun, and then turns him back into a person, and then is like, "He was with me, guys. Don't worry about it. He's not bad." So he doesn't go to jail, and then everybody escapes. But then we cut back to his wife, Mary Jane, who got a letter from McG, and is like, "I'm going to go meet him." She's going to meet him in the most slamming dress I've ever seen. I am a big fan of this dress and the way that she wears it. And Eric Larson, you know how to draw.
Eric Larson and Tim Sale.
Yes. Well, I'd say Eric Larson draws like a 90s babe. You know what I'm saying? Like he got it down. So big fan. But yeah, so I thought this was funny. So then she goes to do her thing. We cut to Peter, who's trying to figure out how to like track and crunch the code of like how to fix this issue with the satellite and everything. And I don't know about you, but this is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So we get the explanation that Doc Ock didn't think about the secondary effects of his gas. Yes, they're not going to kill everybody, and they're just going to make cocaine allergic to people who do cocaine. But it also is going to kill the ozone layer. So that's why they have to solve it, because it's actually going to kill all the people on Earth. It's going to destroy the ozone layer. So he sits down and crunches numbers, it says. And let me see if this makes sense to you, listeners and John, all right? So he says, I studied and did the research on Brundonite, and according to my calculations, if placed in direct contact with the cure, the antidote could deactivate it. Now, let me ask you something, John. If you have a chemical, and there's a chemical that turns that off, and we know that, why did he have to crunch numbers to know that? I don't understand. What numbers did you crunch to go, the antidote fixes the poison?
I don't know, yeah.
I don't know. The only thing I can think is, now that I've just said that, is they didn't know the antidote was Brundonite. Only Doc Ock knew that. Yeah. So maybe he had to figure out that. But they don't really state that.
Maybe that's what, he figured out, like, oh, that's why Doc Ock stole the Brundonite. That's the,
It must be. But either way, I just thought that was funny. He's like, after my calculations, 2 + 2 does equal 4. I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Yes, of course. Yes, if you remove cancer, it's gone from the body. Like, that's what he's saying. It's something so obvious.
Yeah.
I was just like, what? But yeah, so basically they do that. He's like, oh yeah, basically we just have to atomize Brundonite and we can spread it around and that will cure everything.
So now we got to find Doc Octopus.
Yes. So he's like, I think I know where to start or whatever. So then we cut to Mary Jane, who is with, she
shows up.
She shows up. She's armed. And she, we assume she's armed because she went to the gun store. And she is surprised that, hey, it's Jonathan Caesar, not McG. And he says, I killed your, McG guy. And I'm going to take you away to an island and you're never going to leave me. And she's like, I ain't doing shit. And he's like, oh my God, you broke my heart. And then he pulls out a knife and he's like, I will fucking kill you if you don't get on this plane. So then she's like, oh yeah? Well, you brought a knife fight to a gunfight, bitch. And she was about to bluff that, at least. She said, I have a gun. And he's like, no, you don't. And that they go out of their way to make sure that we see this. He says, you don't have a gun because there's a waiting period in California and you can't buy a gun like I knew you were going to get one. So, but it's been long, it takes a month
Yeah.
to wait for it or whatever. So,
Officer Goldman.
just saying, if you were in Texas, you'd have that gun in 15 minutes.
Oh, and this is New York. You said California.
Oh, whatever it is. California. It's the same thing.
They're both blue.
The liberal cities. But yeah, so, yeah, I just thought it was funny that they, like, point that out.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess it's part of the plot or whatever, but it just seemed like David Michelini's like, hey, everybody, women should be able to buy guns to protect themselves when they want to. So,
yeah.
Because this guy would have killed her and kidnapped her if it wasn't for Officer Goldman, who shows up and literally murders
at your service.
The guy. Yeah, he just comes in. He's like, "Hey, babe," like, and he just shoots the shit out of Jonathan.
I didn't. Well, they talk for a split second, and then he unloads, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. So he kills him, and then she's like, "You murdered him in cold blood." I was like, I don't know if that's cold blood. He did have a knife, and he was going to kidnap you. So. Yes, he could have said put the knife down and then shot him after he didn't do that. But
to be fair, she's like, you didn't go through your proper police procedures.
Yes. But then he goes, well, actually, I'm your biggest fan. And then we come back to Spider-Man, who's doing his thing.
I just underline, like, that was a cool twist that I didn't see coming, is that he technically did work at the police station, but he worked, like you said, in the filing department. And, like, so... He just faked being a real police officer this whole time when he has been her biggest, like, quote-unquote fan.
So he's a stalker, too.
He's a stalker.
He's a weird, creepy stalker.
Yeah.
So then we cut to Spider-Man, like I was saying, who finds the lab where Doc Ock is atomizing or he's turning Brendonite into something that they can spread around for a cure. And so they fight, and we have a big, very cool fight where, like, Doc Ock's arms are going all crazy and fighting. The arms are fighting Spider-Man without him even turning around or getting mad or anything.
Doc Ock's still doing his stuff.
Doc Ock's doing science shit while the arms are fighting for him, which is cool. I thought that was very, very cool. And then he does get the better of Doc Ock because Doc Ock's one of his arms goes into a fuel container and explodes the whole place. And then Spider-Man sees the Brendonite, and then we cut back to Mary Jane, who was like, "Oh, you're my biggest fan. That's great. Thanks for saving me," or whatever. And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be your protection from everything." And she's like, "I don't really need protection." And he's like, "Well, I thought you'd understand. I thought you'd be more appreciative." And then he, like, looks up and he goes, "Oh well, I guess I'll always have the reruns." And then he, like, points the gun at her like he's gonna shoot her. But before he shoots her, she's like, wait, don't you... Like, if you kill me, they're going to change the storyline, right? Because I won't be in the show that you love me in. And he's like, yeah. And then she's like, but, why don't I tell you? You won't know what the story was going to be with my character, right? You love my character. Don't you want to know what the story was going to be? And I'll tell you what was going to happen. He's like, okay, well, tell me. And she's like, come closer. I got to tell you. I got to whisper it. And he's like, okay. And he gets closer to her, and then she sprays his face with hairspray. So he's, like, blinded, and then she hits him in the face with her purse, which I was like, hopefully she's got, like, a brick or something in her purse, but he's knocked the fuck out. That's how she, I guess, saves herself, because Spider-Man isn't there. He's saving the world. Because we cut back to Spider-Man, he's fighting Doc Ock. He's trying to get the Brendonite away from Doc Ock now, who's, like, about to lose. He's like, I don't want to lose, not the Brendonite. But he does get the Brendonite away from Doc Ock, and Doc Ock is... Does he get away? Or does
he gets away.
Oh, yeah, he gets away in his Octocraft. I forgot about that. He's like, well, another day. And then, like, he sees he's going to lose, and he just bails out like a loser. Come on, man. You gotta go all out.
You don't want to go to jail again.
Yeah. So he gets the Brendonite, and then we get to the end, basically, when they're like, well, how are we going to get this into the air? We have to build another rocket. We can do that, but, like, it's going to be real hard. And then all of a sudden Thor comes down and is like, I will help. Let me spread the Brendonite around the world. And so that's how he does. That's how we save the world. Is Thor teams up with Spider-Man to spread the Brendonite. And Spider-Man is not very... Like, they're like, hail Thor, savior of the world. And Spider-Man's like, but I did all the six... The Brendonite.
Did you guys? I almost died.
Yeah.
And then there was.
Yeah. So then, Spider-Man comes home feeling like, oh man, and And keep in mind, his wife was almost kidnapped by a rapist / stalker, and then was almost killed by a stalker.
Another stalker.
Yeah. And she was able to get out.
It was a fight between two stalkers.
Yes. And then he comes home and he's like, "You won't believe the day I had." And she's like, they both say it together. Yeah, which I thought was funny. They're both like, "You won't be." Yeah. And then they look at each other and laugh, and then they make out in front of the moon. Because the full moon is in every comic, and
then it's like joy too is for sharing. Explanations can wait.
Yeah, bow wow, and that's how little Spideys are born. And so, so yeah, that's the end of the issue or the end of that series. It's what do you think, John? What would you give this one?
I liked it. It was fun. It was like I said, it wasn't the Sinister Six story I was thinking it was originally, but it was good. I liked it. It was different. I like that Doc Ock had like ulterior motives the whole time. You know, he's playing everybody. I mean, it was pretty upbeat the entire time. There wasn't really the only part of the story I was like, man, was Aunt May. I was like, that's what you get for falling in love with another, 80-year-old.
How dare you? You think you can't find love after your
husband? No. I'm just saying, but she's like, I don't know how long they've been together. 3 weeks. Or it's probably longer, but still, it's like.
So you're okay. If you're 80, you don't deserve love.
No, it just was. She's like,
not for her, but Nathan. Nathan's an old man. He can't love anybody.
But if he's already sick,
so you can't help love.
Yeah, but then now you're dragging somebody else into your.
Haven't you ever watched A Walk to Remember, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about a girl who has cancer.
She gonna die. But
yeah, and the guy still stays with her and loves her because he loves her. Right? Nah. He doesn't go like, ew, cancer.
But what I'm saying is she's been through it once, and now she's gonna go through it, losing.
To be fair, she didn't know he had anything when they got together.
That's probably true.
Or at least if it was, it got worse, and they didn't think it was gonna get worse. So, also, he didn't die from cancer. He died from fucking vulture. All right.
That's true. He died from having a heart attack from
saving her, saving her old ass who couldn't get out of the way of the vulture because she was pushing him. But still,
I'm giving her shit. It was the only part of the story I was like, I don't really care about that. Yeah. But the Mary Jane stuff, I actually liked the twist on that. That was fun. And then Spider-Man was very Spider-Man in this, and it was very, it felt good, and the 90s feel to it was fun. So overall I think it was great, and I give it 8.
Awesome. I don't know what I gave Kraven's Last Hunt. If I had to guess, I'd say an 8. Because I like that one a lot. I'm torn because this is like the storyline is just kind of like a regular Spider-Man story. It's not like an epic storyline.
Yeah.
But I liked everything about it. I liked the 4 mini storylines involved. I liked that they gave May an arc. They gave Flash Thompson an arc. They gave even fucking the twists with it being Jonathan Caesar, and then that was the misdirect, and the actual stalker that was doing all the notes and everything that was following her was the police guy. So it was like all of that to me made it a very interesting comic. There was no down stuff about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like this is better.
You give it what you feel,
man.
Like
this is a 9. I feel like
wow.
I feel like this is a 9 for me for a Spider-Man. That's not going to happen ever again. So if I'm going to read Spider-Man, I'm going to pick this same trade up and read it again because I enjoyed almost every page of this. The art was fantastic. The writing was fantastic. The storyline was super fun. I will say I was a little underwhelmed. You know what? Okay. I'm going to give it an 8.5 because of this. Gosh. I got a 0.5 deduct because I was a little underwhelmed by the cocaine reveal. That it's the cocaine habit people that are. I'm like, what? But I mean, it might have been the time period of everybody was doing cocaine in the 90s, and that's why it was important, or something that would be good. But now it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, everybody does cocaine. Everybody does cocaine nowadays. What? It'd be like if you're like weed. We're going to make it for marijuana or whatever. I don't know. I know. I've heard of a lot of people that do cocaine just recreationally or whatever. So
you have?
Yeah.
No,
I'm sorry. Not us, but in podcasts.
Oh, okay.
All the podcasts I listen to,
I was like, I don't know anybody that does. I mean, I've heard comedians.
All of the comedian podcasts, all of the comedians are gonna die, or at least be under his thrall. That doesn't make any sense. They all do cocaine, okay? Yeah. What was that movie with cocaine?
Cocaine. Dewey Cox.
Walk Hard.
Walk
Yeah.
Hard, yeah.
Yeah. Dewey Cox. He's gonna have.
You don't
Dewey
want to
Cox.
shit, man.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but yeah, so I thought that was a little ridiculous. Out of everything, that was the most ridiculous thing that I was like, huh, when I read that. Everything else made sense for the comic. It was together, and the art was fucking awesome. And Mary Jane, woo, banging. She was great in this movie. So yeah, I can't say enough about Mary Jane's outfits and or just the aesthetic that she is in this. And like I said, it's not necessarily the cheesecake that I'm talking about. I'm just saying like the way he draws her is like I understand why Peter Parker would be like, holy shit, like you know what I'm saying. So it is that '90s look that I, little Matt inside of me is like, hey, I remember when girls looked like that, and that was awesome or whatever. So, yeah, 8.5 from me, 8 from you. I'm surprised I gave it a higher rating than you.
Yeah, that's surprising.
But I literally had a blast. I was smiling the entire time I read this comic. This is like what comics should be to me. So perfect example. I would give this to everybody. Anybody who watches the movie, here you go. There's like no reason why this shouldn't be in everybody's hands at all times. For if you're at the MCU movie or whatever, if you're seeing Spider-Man, they should hand these fucking comics out to people because they're fantastic. So, okay. Real commercial here for us at least. We have started a coffee support page. We've been churning these out for like 2 years now. We love doing it and reading stuff. It is a lot of work, but we're trying to get some supporters because I want to do more. We want to do reactions to Justice League animated stuff. We want to do more podcasts where we do like 90s comics and we talk about them and stuff and just make fun of stuff. So a little bit more comedy involved in those ones. But and I want to do more minis and stuff. So I started a Hellblazer Matt's Minis that is available for $3 a month under our support tier under ko-fi.com/planes, trades, and comic books. And you get exclusive episodes that are only available through our coffee page of Matt's Minis Hellblazer. So I'm reading that in tandem with Swamp Thing. So if you like Swamp Thing, these tie into it sometimes. And you get to learn about John Constantine, who's fucking awesome. So, they're very similar characters as far as they both deal with magic and they both deal in like the realm of not superhero shit. So if you kind of like that about Swamp Thing, this is kind of similar, and it's one of my favorite characters, and it's such a good comic. So I'm reading all those issues. There's 300 issues of that, so it's going to go on for a while. So I'm not sure if I'll keep the tandem thing. I might change that once because I think eventually it goes off. They go separate ways or whatever as far as they don't show up as often to each other. But at least initially, I know they're tied together pretty tight at least at the beginning. So, I'm trying to do that for all you guys to get to know John Constantine. I also love reading it and want you guys to learn about that character. I'm also wanting to do a Spawn Matt's Minis because Spawn's fucking awesome too. I didn't know this, but I started reading on my own, started recording some stuff. So I want to release that, but only if I see enough, interest from the audience. Intrigue, So we want to do more, but we want to make sure you guys want it because we don't want to do it for no reason. So let us know by either donating once or going to the page and leaving comments or joining it and following it. That way we know, hey, we got followers, we got people who like this stuff, that we're sending these things out. That page, once again, is ko-fi.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And that'll at least show us that you guys want it. Even if you don't become a member, you can still just follow us on that, and you get the blog every week where I post everything we do, including all the YouTube videos, all the reviews and audio of our podcasts that are on YouTube, and then we get the audio from our Libsyn page that we have as well.
Yeah. Oh, and if you just want to suggest something, like you want to get something in our list to read.
Oh yeah.
Like if you could join our base tier there too.
There's base, and if you just donate and say, hey, I want this, that's fine too. You can always suggest stuff. I would say the tier is you're gonna for sure get your book in the list. If you just suggest it and I look at it and I go, if we're just donating, I'm like, I'm like, I guess up to a certain level. If you put $1 in and say I want you to read, My Little Pony, I'm like, I don't know about that for the podcast. But if you put $20 in and say I want you to read My Little Pony, I probably read.
We'll probably read the first trade of Milo Pony.
Yeah. So just saying, we'll throw that in there, and definitely, we want you guys to be heard as far as what you say, and if you don't vote with your clicks and your subscriptions and your stuff like that, then we'll just kind of go back to doing our normal stuff. But I would love for everybody to get to know how John Constantine, Hellblazer Reborn, and Spawn, and all these other kind of things that we want to do. We don't have the time or energy to do it until we get enough support behind it. So with that being said, we do thank you all for listening to this podcast. We love that everybody, the comments that we get, the emails that we get. We're big fans of the fact that you guys love comics and we love comics. We love that community aspect about it. So we need a little bit more of a push for some of the extra things we want to do. So enough of that commercial. John, what are we reading next week?
Next week, we're entering into it's gonna be Christmas weekend, and we know everybody celebrates different holidays around this time. We're doing a Christmassy themed story. This is Batman Noel.
Yeah, Batman Noel, which I believe originally came out in issues in, I think it was from Legends of the Dark Knight, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that's where it came out originally. It is a Charles Dickens inspired Batman book, so I'm assuming it's like A Christmas Carol, Ghost of Future Past, Present, and all that stuff. And so, Ghost of Future Past. But it's going to be cool. I've never read it. It's by Lee Bermejo, the art and the writing. So, should be interesting. So with that being said, we'll see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.